Okay, well, thank you. So we have just closed our closed meeting for our Cottonwood Heights Community Development and Renewal Agency. Okay. As a mayor of Cottonwood Heights, I serve as the chair for this agency, and our members of the city council serve as board members. We're going to move to item 3.0, which is the Hillside Plaza property acquisition discussion, and have our city manager, Tim Tingey, just give us a real brief background on this.
Yeah, so this is something we've been considering for a number of months. It's even been in some of our newsletters, but it's the acquisition of the Hillside Plaza property. And so that is something that we have been considering. We've actually entered into an agreement, which we're going to get that ratified tonight. You'll consider ratification, but a couple of things related to the property acquisition of this site. It would be with the Community Development Renewal Agency, which the charge of that organization under state law is to facilitate redevelopment of underutilized properties or properties for redevelopment purposes. That's something that we're very interested in doing as a redevelopment agency board, facilitate reinvestment of this property to get induce additional investment and to facilitate that. The other potential possibility with that is to facilitate a public purpose on the property as well as private purposes. We are not working with the developer. We have not negotiated anything at this point. That's something that we may be looking at down the road through a competitive process, but it's not something that we have taken part in or have at this point. So really the purpose is to facilitate redevelopment and to work in hopefully a public-private partnership to have some public uses there here as well as private uses. And so that is why we are considering this acquisition and having you look at confirming that tonight a little bit further. So I wanted to just outline that and make sure that the public is aware that that is what we have already embarked on, and we're getting confirmation of that decision tonight. And we'll continue in the due diligence process as part of the acquisition. That due diligence process includes bonding and looking at bonding options, which will be a consideration here shortly as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but wanted to be very open with that's what we're proceeding and looking at tonight.
Do you want to talk about any of the key elements of the purchase?
Oh, yes. Yeah, the key elements would be, I appreciate you mentioning that, would be purchasing of the property, which is roughly 10 acres. Purchase price would be $14 million. Payment terms, 100,000 deposit within 3 business days, which that has occurred. And then $100 would be non-fundable. We would have the due diligence process up until January 31st. At that point, if we continue to move forward, we would have an additional 100,000 of down payment that would go towards that as well. We also may look at additional negotiation of the provisions of the purchase and sales agreement as well down the road. We're looking at title commitments, existing surveys, rent rolls, counting information, tenant leases, site plans, insurance certificates, property tax statements, warranties, income, utility bills, service contracts, personal property inventory, and tenant estoppels. That's all part of our due diligence process that we're working towards, as well as title review, financing, and other elements. So those are the terms really of the agreement that we're pursuing. And
Could I just note for the public, this does not include the Walgreens parcel.
correct, it does not include that parcel.
Great. Well, thank you. So we'll move now to item 4.0, which is the Hillside Plaza bond discussion, and I'll have Tim start that as well.
Yeah, so just related to the purchase, the way that we are, or what we're looking at as far as purchasing property is to go through the bond process. It would be a bond that would be issued by the Community Development Renewal Agency as part of their responsibilities to facilitate redevelopment of properties. It would also include backing of sales tax revenue through an interlocal agreement that will be decided upon a little bit later in the city council meeting as well. But that's how that would be the funds, a sales tax backed bond issued by the Community Development Renewal Agency. That would mean that if A bond resolution is passed here shortly by the Community Development Renewal Agency, which is item 5.2. Then we would have the resolution passed, and then we would have a hearing on that February 7th. And then from that point, issuance of the bonds if the council as well as the board wants to proceed in that manner. And Matt Dugdale's here if there's any additional questions. He's our bond consultant with Steeple.
Questions or comments?
Just a question on the resolution 2023-02. If we wanted to change the parameters of that, are we gonna, or maybe it's a question for Paul or Shane, do we need to make a motion with that amendment or?
I think when time comes, you would make a motion to approve that resolution, but change the maximum amount of the bond.
The maximum
to
amount of
whatever you.
interest rate or whatever. Okay.
Perfect.
Just wanted to make sure we're
Good question. No, another good question.
appropriately dotting i's and crossing the t's.
Thank you, and we appreciate Matt you being here. So anyway, so we're gonna move now. We have as a community development renewal agency, we are going to consider two legislative items to move forward now. So first is going to be consideration of resolution 2023-01, the parameters resolution approving and ratifying a shopping center purchase agreement and related documents for realty within the town center at 2300 East Fort Union Community Reinvestment Area. Questions or comments about this?
And that's the name that we gave that area previously when we created it
Correct.
a few months ago.
Correct.
Correct. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-01.
I'll make that motion to approve resolution 2023-01.
I second that.
Motion to approve from Councilmember Newell and a second from Councilmember Peterson. Final questions, comments
First resolution of the year.
for this agency? Yes.
I did have a comment. I have expressed some reservation. This one is still, I'm still working on this. However, I also am aware of the response from a lot of our citizens when news of this negotiation was kind of being spread out, and some of the very positive responses that the city was going to take something and do there rather than have it go the other way. And so I think that's kind of leaning me towards approving this as well, even though I may personally have some concerns. We'll see how things go.
Thank you, Councilmember Bracken. Appreciate that. So I will now call for the vote. Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay. So next is consideration of resolution 2023-02. Authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than 14.5 million aggregate principal amount of sales tax and tax increment revenue bonds. A lot of words, series 2023 and related matters.
Mayor, maybe we could just take a minute and have everybody sign the acknowledgement on the first page, so we get past the public meeting issue that's a required component of this. With that,
Okay,
would this be an okay time to do that?
yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you. And then just on the next page, if you'll just write in who makes the motion in the second.
the next.
So who, you waited for somebody to make. a motion.
So was it Councilmember Renewal, right? And then second. Board
I
meeting.
just noticed it chose to.
Okay,
Right.
great. You-
I would note, and at least express appreciation for staff. There's been a lot of due diligence that has happened. There's probably more that still needs to happen before everything gets finalized, but these are the first steps. It's a complex process. I'm glad Tim knows what he's doing on this. He's like an expert, the Salt Lake Valley expert.
Well, we've got Shane and Scott and Mike too that are. Shane's done a lot of these as well.
Find out how complex this really is.
So let me just restate then. So our next item is now consideration of resolution 2023-02. Authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than 14.5 million aggregate principal amount of sales tax and tax increment revenue bonds, series 2023 and related matters. Questions and comments?
I would make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-02. Although my past history and markets being what they are, parameters resolutions tend to be better if they're a little more expansive. And so I would recommend that we take that the maximum be 14.9, although that's not the intent of the amount to borrow. It at least gives a little bit of flexibility if something changes between now and the actual issuance.
Thank you. So we have a motion. We have a second.
I will second the motion.
Great. We have a motion from Councilmember Bracken and a second from Councilmember Burrell. Final questions, comments? I'll now call for the vote. Councilmember Burrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Okay, so the last item on our agenda is the approval of minutes. The meeting, the minutes of this meeting will be approved through the following process. The agency's secretary will circulate a draft copy of the minutes to the board members, who will then have 3 business days to provide any proposed corrections to the secretary. Secretary will then circulate a revised draft of the minutes to the board members. And the same review process will continue until such time as no corrections to the draft minutes are received within the 3 business days review period. Whereupon that draft of the minutes will be deemed approved and will become the final minutes of the meeting. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn our CDRA meeting. And begin our business meetings scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. I'd like to also say thank you to the public for being patient for all of the closed meeting time that we had to experience today. So I will now, oh, yes.
May I have a comment before you?
It needs to wait. Is that okay? Just take the next meeting. Yep, but sorry, thank you. So I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn our CDRA meeting and begin our meeting.
Move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.